The mortgage forbearance program looks like it's finally coming to an end, which means two things. One, we could see more foreclosures coming, and second, homeowners or people looking to be homeowners could see a break when it comes to finding a new home. What's up everybody, I am Jaspreet Singh from theminoritymindset.com, where money minds rethink rich. The housing market has been in a very strange place, partially due to this mortgage forbearance program. And the way this mortgage forbearance program has worked is back when the pandemic first hit in March 2020, lots of people immediately lost their jobs because businesses stopped making money and the whole economy and the whole country shut down. So many people across the country and the world lost their jobs almost overnight. That's when the government stepped in and they said, well, if people aren't making any money, they're not going to be able to pay their mortgages. And to prevent a repeat of the 2008 collapse, the government came out and they created this mortgage forbearance program, which says that if you have a government-backed mortgage, something backed by the FHA or the VA or the USDA, well, now you can put your mortgage on hold thanks to the mortgage forbearance program. Originally, it was supposed to only be for 6 months, but then it got extended again and again and again. Anyways, back in March, this forbearance program was created, which allowed people to put their mortgages on hold so people don't have to worry about going into foreclosure or spending all their money on paying their mortgage when they don't have money to pay for food. To put it in context, by June 2020, just a few months after this mortgage forbearance program was created, there were more than 4.2 million Americans on this mortgage forbearance program, which means you had more than 4.2 million Americans not paying their mortgages because the government says that they didn't have to. Then by May 2021, this number was cut in half. There was right around 2.1 million Americans on the mortgage forbearance program. And then by mid-August 2021, there were 1.7 million Americans in the mortgage forbearance program. Now, this is where things get really interesting, because if we have 1.7 million Americans that don't have the means to pay their mortgages right now, well, then we would see a repeat of 2008 tomorrow. But that's not necessarily the case, because you have two types of people that are in this mortgage forbearance program right now. You have some people that are struggling financially and are taking advantage of this mortgage forbearance program because they were hurt by this pandemic, and so they're using this mortgage forbearance program as an opportunity to save some cash or to not have to spend so much money because they're struggling because of this pandemic. But you also have a second group of people who aren't hurting by this pandemic and are using this mortgage forbearance program as an opportunity to not pay their mortgage right now, and instead they're using this extra cash to invest or to save or to pay down debt or to go on another vacation. USA Today did a study on what people did with the money that they didn't spend on their mortgage. And what they found was that about a third of people that were in this mortgage forbearance program used this money that was going to their mortgages to not pay for groceries and to pay for their bills because they didn't have enough money coming in. But what they also found was that more than half of people that were in this mortgage forbearance program didn't have a financial hardship. So then they used this extra cash that they were no longer paying towards their mortgage to now save or to invest or to spend on other things because now they didn't have this extra expense. But things might start changing in the housing market now, because starting September 30th, 2021, you will no longer be able to enter this mortgage forbearance program because it's going to stop unless something changes between now and then. And the reason why this is interesting is twofold. Some people believe that the people that are still in the mortgage forbearance program right now are the most vulnerable and the most likely to go into foreclosure. And the second reason why this is interesting is because once people leave the mortgage forbearance program, they're much more likely to sell their homes. So this could mean that we could see a whole bunch of new homes hitting the market for sale. So let's jump into what's going on and what might be coming in the housing market. But before we do that, I need you to do me a quick favor and smash that thumbs up button below. And if you haven't already, be sure to join our brand new free Discord server called the Guac Talk Community, because as we all know, extra guac is truly a symbol of extra wealth. And in this community, you can chat with other minority mindset thinkers about the stock market, the real estate market, the cryptocurrency market, and all things building wealth. This community is completely free, and it's a place where you can chat with and network with other minority mindset thinkers. So if you want to learn more and join our free Discord server, I'll put the link to how you can do that in the description below. At the time of me recording this video, the mortgage forbearance program is scheduled to end on September 30th, 2021, which means if you enter this mortgage forbearance program before September 30th, 2021, you will be able to put your mortgage on hold for another 6 months. Now, there aren't as many people entering the mortgage forbearance program now like we saw happen a year ago. The thing that's more interesting now is a lot of people's mortgage forbearance program is about to expire. We're about to see 1 million Americans exit the mortgage forbearance program because the mortgage forbearance is about to expire. And this is where things get really interesting. First, when people exit the mortgage forbearance program, you are now subject to foreclosure if you do not have the ability to pay your mortgage, which means we could see more foreclosures coming. Second, this is going to play an effect on the housing market because if we see more foreclosures or if we see more people selling their homes, this is going to make a change in the housing market. And third, this can play an effect on the economy because now if you have millions of Americans that have to pay this new expense, well, I guess it's not technically new, but if you have to start paying this expense again, well, now people are not going to have money to spend. So let me start by what's going on in this foreclosure market. So CNBC put out an article that explained that the people that are still in mortgage forbearance right now are the ones that are most vulnerable to going into foreclosure. It says that the people that remain in forbearance right now typically have lower credit scores and live in lower income neighborhoods, making them more susceptible to losing their homes when these programs end later this year. And then a little bit later, it says, in contrast, homeowners with the highest credit scores have typically already exited forbearance. So now let's put this into perspective. Right now, we have 1.7 million people still in the mortgage forbearance program. Back in 2008, we had about 3.1 million Americans receive a foreclosure notice or some sort of default notice because we had 3.1 million Americans unable to pay their mortgages during 2008. So even right now, with 1.7 million people in the mortgage forbearance program, that's still pretty far off from what we saw in 2008. And what we do know is that out of this 1.7 million people, a lot of these people still have the ability to pay their mortgages, and they're just using this mortgage forbearance program as an opportunity to save some money or invest some money. Now, like what we just talked about, there's probably a higher percentage of these people than the people previously in mortgage forbearance programs that are going to be struggling because the people that are still left in the mortgage forbearance program are most vulnerable. But that doesn't mean that everybody here is going to enter foreclosure. So while there is a chance that we could see a new wave of foreclosures hit the market, that doesn't mean that we're going to see a repeat of 2008 because just based off of these numbers, we don't have as many people struggling to pay their mortgages now than we did back in 2008. The other difference between now and 2008 was back in 2008, you had so many homeowners on variable interest rate mortgages, which meant that as interest rates went up, your mortgage payments went up too. And so as this time was going on between 2005 to 2008 to 2009, everybody was starting to see their mortgage payments skyrocket. And now all of a sudden, you went from paying $800 a month on your mortgage to $2,200 a month, and people couldn't make that jump. Now in 2021, people are on fixed rate mortgages, at least most people are, which means that even if interest rates go up, your mortgage payment is not going to change. So these rising interest rate worries don't really affect homeowners right now like they did back in 2008. Now, that being said, 1.7 million Americans not being able to pay their mortgages is still a very large chunk of homeowners because you got to remember, this 3.1 million Americans back in 2008 triggered a whole financial meltdown. So we still have a lot of people that are not paying their mortgages, and this is where you got to pay attention to as people are leaving this mortgage forbearance program. How many of them are really struggling and how many of them are going to be able to pay their mortgages? We don't have the answer to this, but this is something you want to pay attention to as we move forward in 2021 and 2022. Second, let's talk about the housing market because right now we are still in this booming housing market where home prices keep going up and buyers, although they are struggling to keep up with these higher prices, you're still seeing a higher demand to buy these homes because more and more people are still wanting to buy homes. And so you're still seeing home prices grow, although you're not seeing home prices grow as fast as we saw happen earlier in 2021. The housing market, just like every other asset class in the world, runs on supply and demand. If you have more supply than demand, you have a lot of people selling their homes and nobody wanted to buy their homes, that is going to push home prices lower because now the people that are selling their homes are going to be fighting each other by cutting their home prices to get one of the buyers to buy their home. Right now, what we're seeing is we have way more demand than supply to buy homes. You have a lot of people that want to buy homes, although it's not as many as we saw earlier in 2021. We still have way more people that want to buy homes than there are inventory of homes available for sale. So now, if you have 10 people trying to fight to buy the same home, what's going to happen? These 10 people are now going to have to raise the price of their offer to try to win in this bidding war to buy the home. So when you have more buyers and sellers, when you have more demand than supply, this pushes home prices up. When you have more sellers than buyers, when you have more supply than demand, this pushes home prices down. Right now, we still have more demand than supply, but there's a chance that we could see this trend start to slow down and maybe even shift as this mortgage forbearance program comes to an end. This is where I want to jump to a MarketWatch article so you can understand what's going on. So MarketWatch says that an estimated 850,000 borrowers will exit their mortgage forbearance plans between August and October 2021, and if the past proves to be a precedent, a big chunk of these homeowners will list their homes for sale. What we've been seeing happen over the last year is that someone goes into the mortgage forbearance program and they no longer have to pay their mortgages, and then they exit the mortgage forbearance program, and all of a sudden you have to start paying your $2,000 mortgage again. And this is when people start to think, what's the point of me paying this super high mortgage when I can just downsize or move to an apartment or move somewhere else where I don't have to spend as much money on my mortgage? And so this pushes a lot of people after they exit the mortgage forbearance program to then sell their homes, which creates more inventory on the market, because once people go back to paying their mortgages, they don't want to have to pay that money again because they want to keep investing and saving their money and spending this money. And so people are more likely to sell their homes. So if the past is any indication of the future, then this means we could see more supply enter the housing market, because as people leave the mortgage forbearance program, they're gonna have to start paying their mortgages again. And this is when they might realize that, hey, I don't wanna pay this high of a mortgage. Let me move into a smaller home, or let me move somewhere else where I don't have to have all this housing cost. The second thing that you have to think about when it comes to supply and demand is what we just talked about with the foreclosure market. If more people leave this mortgage forbearance program and they don't have the means to pay their mortgages, well, that means we could see more foreclosures. Now, we really don't have any idea of how many foreclosures it's gonna be. Is it gonna be a very small amount or a very large amount? There's no way to predict this because we don't really have a good idea or good grasp of what's gonna happen to these people that are left in the mortgage forbearance program right now, and what government programs are going to be created between now and then. So it's hard to predict what's gonna happen, but what we do know is chances are we will see an uptick in foreclosures. We just don't know to what extent. And so if that happens, well, now that will also increase the supply, but we just don't know how much. This is where now we have to look at the demand side of things, because right now there are still a ton of people that want to buy a home. They want to take advantage of these low interest rates. But the issue that many home buyers have been facing is either they can't get qualified to get a mortgage because they don't have a good enough credit score because of what's happened over the last year, or they've been priced out of the market because home prices have gone up so much. We have seen home prices grow faster than ever over the last 12 to 18 months. And so many people who were hoping to buy a $300,000 home found that these $300,000 homes are now costing $350,000 or $400,000. So they don't have the ability to buy these homes anymore because home prices have gone up so much. So you have a lot of people that want to buy homes but have been priced out of the market, but there's still that demand there. So this is where we're really running into a tug of war to test the pricing ability in the housing market, because home prices have been going up like this. And eventually you're gonna hit a point where home buyers are gonna say, I'm fed up with this. I can't afford these homes anymore. And more people are gonna walk away from the home buying market. You're starting to see that happen right now, but it's not happening at a big enough scale to really impact the housing market, because you still have buyers with cash that are buying homes. You have investment firms that are buying homes. And so you still have this demand to buy homes. But the question is, when will we reach a point where more and more home buyers are gonna say, hey, I can't afford a home anymore? Plus, the Federal Reserve Bank is scared to raise mortgage rates because they don't want to make housing more expensive right now. And we keep seeing mortgage rates and refinance rates fall. In the early part of 2021, we started to see these mortgage rates and refinance rates start to grow very quickly. But then people got scared because now they were worried that they wouldn't be able to afford these higher price of homes with the higher mortgage rates. And that's when mortgage rates and refinance rates started to fall again. And then in the summer of 2021, that extra refinance fee that was passed in 2020 was taken away. So then all of a sudden in 2021, getting a mortgage refinance became cheaper. And then to incentivize people to continue buying homes as home prices went up, mortgage rates went lower again. Both of these things are great news if you've been thinking about buying a home or refinancing a mortgage, because now you can borrow money and pay very little money in interest. Now, if you are thinking about going out and buying a home, or if you have been thinking about refinancing a mortgage, just make sure you shop around, because some lenders are going to charge you a whole lot more money in interest than other lenders for the exact same loan. Now, the shopping around used to be really hard because you used to have to go from lender to lender, and you used to have to give them all of your personal information. But now, thanks to the internet, you don't have to do that, because now you can just go to a mortgage comparison tool on the internet, and then they'll be able to show you different rates from different lenders. That way you can find the lender that is giving you the best rate possible. And the following is an advertisement from our sponsor Credible, who operates a mortgage comparison website. With Credible, you can compare mortgage and refinance rates at no charge to you. you. They have multiple lenders competing on their marketplace, so you can compare great rates and pick the option that's best for you. The process is pretty simple. All you have to do is go onto Credible's website and enter in a few pieces of information, which just takes a few minutes, and then Credible will present you with actual pre-qualified rates from different lenders. That way you can compare. Credible's pre-qualification process is easy to use. It only takes a few minutes, and checking pre-qualified rates does not affect your credit score. So if you want to learn more and see what mortgage or refinance rates you might qualify for, I got the link to how you can do that with Credible in the description below. Credible does pay minority mindset and advertising fee when you submit a pre-qualification request, and Credible Operations Inc. NMLS number 1681276 is not available in all states. So if you want to learn more and see what mortgage or refinance rates you might qualify for, I got the link to how you can do that with Credible in the description below. One of the things that I'm really interested to see is, as this mortgage forbearance program ends and as the student loan forbearance program ends, as people have to pay these fees again, what's going to happen to the economy? Because the way that our economy works is our economy runs on spending. The more money you have, the more money you can spend. The more money you spend, the more money that somebody else makes. Like when you go to a restaurant and you spend money, this restaurant owner now makes money. When this restaurant owner makes money, now they have more money to hire more employees and to open another restaurant and to invest their money into other ventures. And so the more money you have to spend, the more money you will spend, and the more money that our economy makes and the more our economy grows. But if you don't have money, now you can't go to the restaurant because you don't have money, and you can't spend money, which means the restaurant owner is not going to have money to hire employees. They're not going to have money to open a second restaurant, and on and on and on. So what I'm interested to see what happens is, right now we still have 1.7 million people that aren't paying their mortgages right now, and we also have millions of people that are not paying their student loans right now. So as people have to start paying their mortgages and the student loans again, and now they don't have this thousands of dollars extra every single month to either save or invest or spend in the economy, how is that going to affect our economic system? As I'm sure you know, the prices of things around us, not just homes, but the prices of regular stuff, your gas, your groceries, your vacations, the prices of things around us have been skyrocketing. Like I was recently looking at booking an Airbnb the other day, and the amount of money that I have to pay for an Airbnb now is twice what I would have had to pay if I booked this Airbnb about 6 months ago. So it's crazy how expensive things have gotten very quickly, and one of the reasons that businesses have been able to charge these higher prices is because, well, people have the extra cash to pay this extra money, because either you haven't had as much expenses for the last year and a half because you've been in this pandemic and lockdown, so you got some extra savings, and maybe you got some extra cash from the government. And on top of that, many people don't have the same expenses because a lot of people are not paying their mortgages or they're not paying their student loans. So as these programs start to go away, as people have less money in their hands to spend, what is that going to do to the economy? Are we going to see the price of things finally start to come down? Are we going to see businesses start to make less money? What's going to happen? And so this is something that I'm really interested in. I don't know the answer to what's going to happen, but this is something that you definitely want to pay attention to, because this can affect all ends of our market. This is where you have a whole bunch of economists worried about what's going to come next. You have some economists worried that we're going to see an era of deflation, which could hurt our economy. Other economists are worried that we're going to see this type of inflation, which is really going to hurt the value of our dollar, which is going to hurt the strength of the United States when it comes to the global economy. So we don't really know what's going to happen, but this is where you really want to start to pay attention to what's going on and make sure you're financially educated. That way you can make the best decisions for your money and take care of yourself and your family, because things are going to be very interesting for the next year and probably into the next decade. And of course, I'll be keeping you updated on our channel, so if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure you do that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, here's a video on investments that you need to own that I think you'll love, and while you're at it, download our free guide on how to start generating passive income. And as always, keep hustling. There's a saying in the real estate world that if you are a real estate investor and you haven't been sued yet, then you haven't been in business long enough. I mean, this is just the reality of being a real estate investor, especially in the United States, because you can be sued for anything. Like I had a tenant sue my real estate company